A former Utah star high school quarterback who visited Utah decided to choose BYU instead. What does that mean? Let's talk about it on today's Locked On Utes.
You are Locked On Utes, your daily podcast on the Utah Utes. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everyone, and thank you for making Locked On Utes your first listen every single day. We are available on all platforms, including YouTube and wherever you may get your podcasts. If this is your first time listening to our show, make sure you like and subscribe. Love interacting with all of you in the YouTube comments as well as on social media, where you can follow our show at Locked On Utes on X. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. You can make every moment more. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed. That's $150, win or lose. You can visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started. My name is JT Wistrcill, former intern inside the University of Utah Athletic Department. Excited to be joined on today's show by former Utah kicker Moose Bingham. And Moose, we got a lot to talk about today. Utes in the NFL, talking about the fits with some of those teams. Really excited to get your perspective on that with all the scouting and analysis you also do throughout the year on these guys too. Then at the end, talking about a really fun Utah statistic post-draft. But we have to start with McCae Hillstead, who when he first entered the portal was a guy that we actually had you on to talk about what he could mean. Not long after, it was reported he was going to visit Utah, but he also visited and ended up committing to BYU. So BYU does land McCae Hillstead over Utah. So does this mean anything crazy for Utah? My gut reaction to this is no. It doesn't mean that BYU's on the up and Utah's on the down. The truth of the matter is Utah had their starting quarterback this fall in Cam Rising, of course, and even other back quality got options too, and an Isaac Wilson maybe. So you still have to fight for the job there too. And BYU still has other quarterback options there, but I feel like McCae probably saw a sooner and more of a sure playing path to BYU. So I feel like that's what this is more about. But I am curious, how did you read the situation?
Yeah, I actually think it means a lot for Utah, to be honest with you.
Okay.
This is big news because when a kid doesn't see an opportunity to play, it means you recruited really well. It means that there's guys committed to the program, and it means that there's no playing time whatsoever. So they're not going to be throwing a bag at McCae. And McCae did good, to be honest with you, at Utah State. He didn't have a ton of help around him, but it wasn't transcendent. I mean, he was 94 for 85 with a 60% passing completion, 1,000 yards, 11 touchdowns, but 8 interceptions as well. And he is listed as a dual threat quarterback. He carried the ball 44 times for 36 yards. So it's not like he's a transcendent quarterback yet. But do I think he can be? Absolutely. I love McCae Hillstead. And it's really interesting because McCae, growing up in Springville, he played against guys like Ryder Burton. They're in the same class.
That's
and
right.
BYU initially chose Ryder Burton over McCae, but now they're kind of backtracking, saying McCae might be our starter this next year. But what does that mean for Ryder Burton? What does that mean for all the other kids on BYU's roster when they're saying, we don't believe in you guys enough, we're bringing in a quarterback to compete with you? And so the more chaos down south, the happier Utah fans should be, honestly. Because if you bring in a McCae Hillstead, that may be taking a scholarship from another player, maybe a Rosen or a Wilson, that's like, hey, if you don't believe in me, I'm out. So there's always dominoes that fall. But Utah's in a great position now. I think McCae is a great kid. I think he's going to light it up for BYU. And I think having him on campus gives you an advantage because you know what makes this kid tick. What's he doing before you even play him during the year? I wish I could interview every single kid we're about to play. So I'm like, what's your positives? What's your negatives? What can I do to break down your film before we even go into game week against BYU? And what am I going to do that's going to kind of rattle you, that's going to send you for a loop? Maybe it's send a lot of schemes at you. Maybe it's just basic defenses. But I think it gives Utah an advantage in the Holy War, knowing McCae better, seeing what he did at Utah State, and seeing what rattled him a little bit with those 8 interceptions.
That is an incredible point, and I think one most people don't think about when you're competing for guys in the transfer portal is the sit-down meetings where you talk about your strengths and weaknesses and how do we make you the best player you can be. Normally, that's to help the guy when he comes to play for you. But if you choose a team that you are still going to end up having to face the team in which you shared that information with, that stuff can be used against you which is crazy to think about. And I think I'm very curious to see if that plays out. And Moose, based on the way you're talking, it sounds very likely you do think McCae has a real shot, even though he's coming to BYU this, I wouldn't say late in the game but we still have already had a whole spring ball through. Sounds like you think he's got a real shot to be the starting quarterback for BYU when they come to face Utah. And based on what you talked about too, do you think this Utah defense, because some of that intel, would be really well equipped to face off against McCae?
I think it would. The other thing is there's a lot of smoke and mirrors nowadays
Yeah.
in college football. I mean, there's only so much NIL money at the end of the day. So I've seen teams saying, yeah, we're going to offer you X amount, and other teams going and matching that and draining NIL money for potential recruits in the future as well. So that's the other thing that comes into play. But I absolutely think McCae will be the starting quarterback against the University of Utah by the time of that season. I don't know if their starting quarterback, Retzlaff, can really hanker down and stop throwing the ball to the other team. He hasn't won a game in the FBS realm yet. So every single game he started, he lost. Then you've got Gary Buchanan, who Gary's a really nice kid. He's really awesome. He's coming off major shoulder surgery. He's having trouble slinging the ball. So if those are your two top options, yeah, I think McCae can come in as long as he stays healthy. That's always been my concern with McCae, is staying healthy, getting down the field, because he's not a big kid. He's 5'10", maybe.
Yes.
I mean, we're pushing it because I was 5'10" in college as well. So McCae has a lot of good things going for him. He is quicker than quick. He's faster than fast. I mean, he runs a 10.800. He is very athletic. But when you face a Utah defense, it really doesn't matter because that smothering defense is coming down. Whether you run a 10.8, a 10.3, 9.2, you still have big Polynesians, big people, Lander Barton breathing down your neck. And it doesn't matter how fast you are when you're corralled and cooped up, you're going down.
If they're able to set the edge and keep him in the pocket and Samote Peppa breaks through, woof. That's all I'll say right there. I was going to ask you a question about Utah's quarterback room, but Moose, I've already had you on to do that before. We feel good about Isaac Wilson, a Brandon Rosen there too. And if something were to happen to those guys, there's going to be a ton of other talented quarterbacks that enter the transfer portal too. But you and I have both talked about it. We're high on Wilson. We think he can be successful. You just talked about McCae's. He's not the biggest guy either, and neither is Wilson. How important in today's college football is a quarterback's height?
So it used to be you'd have to be at least 6'2". What we've seen, Kyler Murray, there's been a blueprint set up where you can be extremely successful in 6 feet or under. Isaac Wilson is 6 foot. I mean, he's not a tiny, tiny dude by any stretch of the imagination. And he's gone through a Corner Canyon lifting program, and he's pretty well built now as well. So that's the other thing boding for him. And he's a pocket passer. In all reality, he can do the dual threat thing. He's not asked to as much, and he's really smart and gets the ball off quick. You can be very successful as a shorter quarterback as long as you get away from the injury bug. And I think Isaac Wilson can do that and then some.
I think he can too. I'm excited to see what Wilson can do when he gets the opportunity, whether that is just, knock on wood, no injuries to Cam Rising, of course, whether something were to happen and he were to come in the fall, or just seeing more of him in the spring and potentially in 2025 too. It's going to be exciting to see what the future holds for Wilson and, potentially McCae Hillstead too, because as someone who spent some time covering Utah high school football, if I could watch Wilson versus McCae Hillstead at some point, that would be something that I would just find really exciting, Moose.
Yeah, I mean, there's other things at play too. I mean, I still think Devin Brown's going to hit the portal from Ohio State, another Corner Canyon prospect. So you're seeing all these quarterbacks, and the hard thing with most schools, there's only one quarterback that's going to start. We've seen Jackson Dart hit the portal. He went to Ole Miss. He's been extremely successful. We've seen a lot of these guys that are like, hey, I'm going to try my hand somewhere else. And Utah is doing a great job showing them what they can do. And even Cam Rising, he's from Texas. Like, he was originally committed to UT. Utah has done an incredible job in the transfer portal, and they'll continue to do it because what I know that Utah likes to do is they love to have competition at every position. And if you don't like competition, Utah just isn't a place for you.
No, it's not. I mean, we see guys get after it every time they step on the field and put the pads on. So it's something you got to always be ready to go. And, you mentioned the transfer portal. I have an episode coming out tomorrow, which I'm pretty hard on the transfer portal as it relates to the 2024 Utah team because the starters are pretty much set that they got. But the 2025 team, there's going to be a lot up in the air, and that's where the transfer portal is going to be really important. And if Utah was able to land a Devin Brown, man, watching him and Wilson compete would be an absolute blast for a job. And something that would make Coach Kerr, I'm sure his heart just very happy to be able to watch his guys go to work each and every day. So that's going to be something fun to play out and watch it all fold out is the future. And speaking of the future, we got to talk about the future of all these Utah football players who were just selected in the draft. It was something I covered on yesterday's show, but Moose, I'm really excited to get your thoughts on it as you wait with the way you break down the game and everything and see how you feel each of these guys fit in with their new team. We're going to be discussing and dissecting all of the now Pro Utes' new homes in one moment. But first, I want to talk to you all about one of the sponsors of today's episode of Locked On Utes in our friends at Gametime. Gametime is the fast and easy way to find tickets for your next big event. And Gametime is an authorized ticket marketplace of the NBA, which makes getting playoff tickets even faster and easier. The prices on the Gametime app actually go down the closer it gets to tip off. You can pick out any specific game or matchup that you'd love to attend, whether it's going to a big matchup between, if you're going to go to a future Utah Jazz one, or in the short term, if you guys have plans to fly out somewhere. Hey, eventually we might be talking about the MLB in Utah. We know we got hockey coming here now too. Lots of great reasons for you guys to go get Gametime today. So when you're talking about some of the features that I love with it, you can talk about those zone deals where you can save even more when you choose a section and let Gametime choose your seat. They also have those seat views that gives you a panoramic view from your seat in the app before you actually buy. It's also that low price guarantee where Gametime will credit you 110% of the difference. Gametime ticket coverage also allows you to get making sure your ticket is covered with the most flexible customer service policy in the ticketing industry. So you can take the guesswork out of buying NBA tickets with Gametime. You can download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE, capital L. And the entire word college is all caps. And once again, that is all word for $20 off. Download Gametime today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Also want to talk to you all about another sponsor of our show today, our glorious friends at FanDuel Sportsbook. It's winner take all in the NBA, NHL, and FanDuel is giving you a shot to bring home a big win of your own. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $150 to bet on the spreads, money lines, player props, and more. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and make every playoff shot count. And there are some major shots and games coming up across the NBA landscape, right? We should see the Pelicans getting swept by the Thunder here soon. There are but so many fun matchups still. I'm obviously still fired up about what my Timberwolves did. They got a huge showdown with the Denver Nuggets coming up in the near future, barring a crazy Lakers comeback. There are lots of fun series going on across the association. That's not even mentioning all the great NHL matchups we have playing out, and baseball is in full swing. So make sure you guys head over to FanDuel today. FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Moose, the NFL draft is always a wonderful time of the year. It's great to see all of these former Utah players get selected. We were even talking off air about how excited we were to see a guy like a Jackson Powers Johnson from Corner Canyon High School going on to the Raiders now, and see how, and it feels like it's going to be a great fit for him there. And speaking of fits, that's what I want to do, is talk with you about the fit in the team that all of these guys are going to, and get your thoughts on. So starting off with the first Ute selected in Cole Bishop, I think this is a great culture fit. I think Bills fans are going to absolutely love Bishop. I can just already see him making big plays on third downs. This is a fit I absolutely love. How do you see it playing out?
Just third downs. Wow, you're not a believer. I see him making plays on first and second down as well. But I really love Cole Bishop. I think he tested out of the roof. And the nice thing is, him going there, you really see a lot of very successful safeties from Morgan Scalley's room. And he is just the next one in a long, long line of phenomenal safeties. I mean, I think the Bills were actually skipping to the phone to call Roger Goodell. They were like, oh my gosh, oh my gosh, oh my gosh, oh my gosh, because they had to wait and they didn't want to give up draft capital. But it is a perfect fit. It's not a good one. It's a great one. You're going to see an Eric Weddle type career. Another guy that was a second-round draft pick, high second-round draft pick, just like Cole Bishop. And he's going to do amazing things with the Bills because they're ready to roll. They've got everything in place. They just have to get past the Chiefs, and this might be their year with Cole Bishop in the backfield.
It feels like it could be a special one, and it would be awesome to see Bishop play out in that. Also, if my clip gets edited to make it seem like I said Bishop can only play on third downs, I am blaming and calling you if I see me in some hype video for like Bishop being counted out. I am blaming you because I spoke publicly about him. So how dare you, sir? But I'm not going to give you any opportunity for you to twist my words negatively when talking about Jonah Ellis's fit with the Denver Broncos, because I think this is a tremendous one. I think he can come in right away and be one of their top 4 guys in the defensive end room. I think what he offers as a pass rusher is something that the Mile High City is going to love.
Well, I mean, he's in a dream situation. Luther Ellis's son coming in.
Yep.
His dad played for him. I mean, I've wanted to do things that my dad has done for years. He's a dentist. I'm not smart, so I get to talk about football all day. But luckily, Jonah got to follow in his father's footsteps. And I think that's one of the coolest things in the world. And I love the Broncos organization. I think that they're doing a lot of good things. And I think they're stacking everything to go their way right now. Yeah. I think once they get rid of Russell Wilson's contract and get away from that, it's going to bode very well, because Jonah Ellis may be up for a contract extension at that time. And they're going to have all this extra money and be like, hey, let's give some to Jonah, and he can come back down and give it to the great people of the state of Utah. But he's there with Garrett Bowles. He's got a lot of players that have gone through the Utah system that know what it's like, and they're going to bring him along. And he doesn't have a ton of pressure on him. It's good that he was a 3rd-round draft pick, because he's high enough that they're invested in him, but he's low enough that they're not expecting him to be a day one starter, day one guy. He has time to get over his injuries. He has time to really get into his own. And I think about halfway through the season, you're going to see him start to shine and start to get those sacks that he was piling up all year for the University of Utah.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's a great fit for him, and excited to see the long-term potential that he has there. Just like I'm excited about the long-term potential of Sione Vaki. The Detroit Lions surprised a lot of us when Sione went in the 4th round. We thought Sitake was going to be the next guy drafted. Sione was kind of all over the place in mock drafts, but I said on a show last week that Sione felt like a Dan Campbell guy in some ways, and I am so excited that Sione landed in place with just a strong culture.
Yeah. I mean, they see him as a perennial powerhouse on special teams, which he will be, and then some. That's the great thing about Sione. He's going to be a day one active roster. He's going to be going down, and he is going to be dominant. He didn't test incredibly well at the combine, but the combine's conditions are super difficult. They wake you up at like 3 a.m. They're like, do this, do this. You're just like, get away from me. Leave me alone. But when it comes down to running down on kickoff or running a kickoff back, he's going to do that and then some, and he's going to do a lot better than he tested at the combine. So I'm excited for Sione. I had him as a 4th-round draft pick at the earliest, and he succeeded in doing so. And that 4th round, that's putting a lot into someone. That's the lowest you really want to go if you declare to come out early. He got some great advice. I love what's going on with him, and he's going to have a great time down there in Detroit and be with other guys that are similar to him. Like, he'll be best friends with Penei Sewell out there, who just signed one of the biggest contracts in history, really. And he's only 24, so Penny's going to be there for a long time. You're going to have a lot of fun there. He's going to have a lot of friends, and Dan Campbell's going to keep on going. I mean, the Lions really seem like America's team right now. I laugh because my nephew that's 10, he's a big Lions fan. And we're like, oh, he's in for a lifetime of disappointment and sadness. He's like, just you watch. And they played the 49ers tough. They've done so many good things right. And they're just starting. That's what I like about this Lions team. And I love that Sione Vaki's there. And I like that they put him at running back. I think that's an interesting position group for him. Maybe he'll go to safety again. Maybe he'll stay at running back. But whatever he's going to do it with all of his heart, and he's going to be special.
I think Lions fans are going to love him for all those reasons you articulated, especially the heart that he plays with. He's just a guy who goes out there. He may not be the biggest guy. He may not have tested the fastest at the combine, but he's fast. He can make some impressive plays, and I can't wait to see what Sione is going to be able to do there. Last 2 Utes we have to talk about that got drafted, Moose. We talk about Sitake Laumea, the Seahawks, what they're putting in place there, Mike McDonald with this, coming over from Baltimore. We already think of Seattle. We already think run the ball in some ways because of Marshawn. When you think of the Ravens defensive coordinator, you're obviously also going to think, well, Ravens culture, they like to run the ball too. So, and Sione and Sitake does best to run blocker. Something that excites me, what he can add as a depth piece and maybe long-term develop there. And Vele getting a shot in Denver. You just talked about how high you are on the Broncos because of, they got a Sean Payton, a Super Bowl winning coach. There's not a ton of those guys out there too. I think Bo Nix can do a lot of positive things too. And Vele, this big body receiver, I think both of these guys are also set up in positions where they'll have the chance to succeed at the NFL level, which is all you can ask.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Saotoa, if he doesn't start right away, and I think he absolutely can, I think he's going to be kind of a Will Tukuafu type guy. Maybe put him in at fullback. Let's see what goes down, and that'd be a beautiful thing. But Saotoa, he's just an absolute dude, and he's the second to last Ute drafted, not the last one. He is a dog, and he just brings warmth to my heart because he can play any position on the line. That's what's beautiful about him. In the line, you want to take at least 6 to every game, possibly 7, but you need someone that can play both tackle spots. You need someone that can play everywhere in the interior because you're down to 52, 53. And if you're at 53, there's only so many guys that can travel. And I think you're going to see this young man make the team and be a contributor and a backup.
I think you will be too. And then I wanted to give you your opportunity to give your quick thoughts on Vele as well, Moose.
Ah, yes, the 7th rounder, Vele. No, I really like Vele. His story is unbelievable. Coming from being a walk-on to get drafted, what a crazy, crazy thought process. Because usually when I took a walk-on, I was like, yeah, he's going to suck. He's going to be fantastic on scout team. But he persevered through everything. And getting drafted as a wide receiver in the University of Utah is absolutely mind-blowing because the University of Utah isn't known for putting out receivers. He's bucked the trend, and you're going to see a lot of production out of this young man. The Broncos have redone their whole entire receiving core, and they're going to allow competition. They're going to allow a lot of good things. And whether he's catching the ball from Bo Nix or Zach Wilson or anyone else, he's going to make them look good.
I'm excited to see what Vele has a chance to do there. You mentioned receivers don't get drafted a lot. Another one is Tim Patrick. Hopefully he can finally get healthy. He's battled a ton of injuries during his time out there in Denver, but would be fun to see him and Vele lining up. 2 Utah receivers on the same team is like, maybe it just shows the evolution of Utah's offense. Like the fact that an NFL team might have 2 of those guys out there is it'd be absolutely wild. So it'll be fascinating to watch it play out there. So those were the Utes who were drafted, have a crazy draft stat as it relates to Utah. I want to throw out to you guys, as well as give Moose an opportunity to share his thoughts on the undrafted free agents for Utah in one moment. But first, I want to talk to you all about our friends at Monopoly Go. Let's take a quick second and pause. We got to just stop for one moment to talk more about Monopoly Go. I know what you're saying, flag on the play. You already talked about that, but there's just so much good stuff in this game. I mean, in Monopoly Go, you can team up with your friends for timed tournaments where you work together to build up each other's boards. There's so many great features about Monopoly Go, where the more you win together, the more awesome prizes you unlock. And there's so much to get, whether it's unique stickers you can trade with a friend to complete albums for big prizes, cool new playing pieces to travel with the boards, hilarious emojis for taunting your friends when you smash their buildings or heist their vaults. Plus, Monopoly Go feels new and exciting every day with constantly changing tournaments and challenges, a ton including their own unique mini games like digging for treasures or a robot Pinocchio machine, and there's always new timed events that help you win big, like massive multiplayers for everything you win or rent frenzies. There's always something fun to discover in Monopoly Go, so get off the bench and go download now for free on the Google Play or the App Store. Game on with Monopoly Go. All right, Moose, want to throw my stat at you, then we'll give you a chance to talk about the undrafted free agents. Schools with the most draft picks. Utah ranked inside the top what for schools?
All time this year?
No, this year. I'm sorry. I will make it more specific. That's fair. Schools with the most draft picks in the 2024 NFL draft. Now I've done a good job hosting and set up the question properly.
I would say 15.
You would be exactly correct. Utah just got inside the top 15. They had 5 picks, which was tied for Auburn and Utah. Michigan had 13, which is absolutely insane. LSU, Missouri, and Clemson had 6. But, you just see Utah up here with these brands. And when I say brands, Georgia, Alabama, Texas, Michigan, Notre Dame, USC, who Utah's now beaten the last 3 times they played them, but they're still a big brand name. And no, I'm never going to not take the opportunity to mention that Utah's beaten USC the last 3 times they played them. But I think this just speaks to the ascension of Utah's program. Let's look over the last few years. 2 years ago, Utah first-round pick. 1 year ago, first-round pick. This year, 5 guys drafted. Only these elite programs among that are on this list, I think, can say those similar things. So it just shows you about when I say things like Utah is currently a top 15 program in college football, these are reasons it's true, because they are producing talent worthy of NFL draft selection.
Well, here's the thing. With Kyle Whittingham, he's always taken guys to the next level. He's done a phenomenal job with development, and now we're giving him guys that aren't Mountain West guys. We're giving him guys that are P4 guys, and he's taking them to the next level. So as he continues to do that, Kyle Whittingham's going to continue to have draft picks, continue to have success. In all reality, this was a low year for the Utes, as crazy as that is. So we've seen years where the Utes have 8, 10 guys drafted, and it's crazy, but it's the expectation now. When you go to the University of Utah, your expectation is I'm going to get drafted. I'm going to go to the NFL. And I will have a successful career. If you buy into what they're doing, that is all possible and then some. It's not, I'm going to come here and walk out with a degree. That's a byproduct of the work you put in, a byproduct of you buying into the system and the culture. And when you do that, good things happen. Are you going to have a perfect life? No. But they give you the blueprint for success. And that's what I love about Kyle Whittingham and the University of Utah.
And you can also get your degree, not to completely poo-poo on education, but these guys
degrees are great
in the NFL as well too. Well, I know, Moose, you said earlier you're not the smartest guy, so I just want to make sure we still provide the value for the smart people that do want to go to Utah for the school purposes as well. But you mentioned the goal is to get drafted, but not everyone gets drafted. There were a couple undrafted free agents this year. My personal favorite, Bills to the Bills, but you also have Miles Battle going to the Chiefs and Thomas Yasmin on the Broncos. What do you think of these 3 players landing in their new homes?
I think all of them are phenomenal. I mean, Bills, let's be honest here. He's a little bit older, and he made the right choice of jumping and getting out to the NFL. He could have come back a year, but I don't think it would have helped him all that much.
I don't think so,
And I think that he is going to do great. I remember recruiting him when he was in high school as a DN. He's really grown. He's done a lot of good things, and he's made himself into a phenomenal offensive guard. And I think he's going to make the practice squad at the very least, if not make the active roster. He's a technician, and he's used to being the biggest guy in the room. I'm going to see what happens when he's in a room with a lot of big guys. It's going to be interesting. But his jersey would sell like crazy.
I know.
So he needs to stay there and stay put because that's a beautiful thing. Thomas Yasmin, just an interesting prospect. He's got all the tools. The tight end room at the Broncos, not good. It's not like he's going to the Raiders where they've got first-round draft pick and all these other guys where Cole Fotherham's going to
Cole Fotherham. There we go.
And so I think he might have a shot to figure it out, and he can play on special teams. But the most interesting one to me is Miles Battle. I saw him as even a 7th-round draft pick with his speed, with his size, with everything that's going on. He's a guy that I'm like, 6'4" cornerback doesn't make sense. But he's just an oxymoron, a great human being that's going to be dominating special teams at the Kansas City Chiefs because they like size, they like speed, and they like to win championships. And before you know it, Miles Battle may have a ring on his finger.
I mean, hey, to your point, like if I had to give the odds of which of these Utah players is most likely to win a ring, I might take Miles just because even if he's on the practice squad, he's got Patrick Mahomes as good as Bishop is set up with Josh Allen over there and Dalton Kincaid too. Like it's hard not to go with Miles Battle for the position he's in. So it is awesome that all of these guys ended up in strong landing spots too. I mean, and just hearing your name called in the NFL draft or just getting the opportunity at the NFL, something you got to be fired up about. So excited to see how it all plays out. And Moose, I'm always excited whenever we get the chance to talk with you because you are a very busy man, sir. So please tell everyone what you have going on.
So still selling War Room. It's been awesome. Got my little WR right here.
There we go. So not wide receiver War Room.
Yep, War Room. With that, we actually adjusted a couple things just recently. We'll be selling full schools recruiting for parents. and adding that to our War Room product. So if you are at a high school and you're like, hey, I want to understand the recruiting process for my kids, see how we can get them to the University of Utah and help out your whole team in the same breath, get it for your school. We'll get you guys taken care of. Reach out to me at MooseB90 on X.
Awesome, Moose. Great stuff. Thank you for joining us.
Anytime. Always a pleasure, JT.
That's going to do it for today's edition of Locked On Utes. We'll be back tomorrow. We got a fun episode for you. Talk about some of the transfer portal madness. We look forward to seeing you then.